you could change any choices you have ever made, would you? You can always make another choice and change the course of your success. Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here is the host of Inspired Choices radio show, holographist coach, Christine McIver.
Hello, my friends. It's so funny to hear that man. He always says my name wrong, but it doesn't matter because I know who I am. And who are you? Who are you tonight, my friends? Who are you being? That's what we're going to be talking about, basically, because tonight's show is, do you ever feel like a fraud? It's going to be a pretty intense show. There's a lot of things that have been kind of coming forth that I wanted to share with you, but you know, you didn't come here to just listen to me babble, right? You came here to really feel what what I've got coming through. And what I've got coming through is actually going to be a contribution to all of us. So my friends, welcome to the Inspired Choices show. I am your host, Christine McIver, and we are here on the Inspired Choices Network. And before we go any further, I want to make sure that you have downloaded the Inspired Choices Network app. We now have a fabulous app where you can listen live wherever you are. And the very cool thing is that when you hit the live button, you can go anywhere throughout the app, or you can close the app and continue to be on your phone. You can be walking, you can be driving, you can be having an ice bath, you can be in the kitchen, whatever you're doing, you can be listening to these amazing live shows, or you can actually click on the podcasts that are right here, and you can just click along, and there's mine, and you can click there. And when you click there, you're going to get a complete layout of all the shows that I've ever done. And you can go through, and there's nearly 300 shows right there in mine alone. And you can go down and you can click on any of those episodes and you can listen. Or if it's a TV show, which I'm doing right now, and I have been doing TV here. Well, this is, I think, my 53rd TV show. And if it's a TV show, you can click on that TV show and you can watch the TV show right from your phone. And the really cool thing about this app that I love, and I'd love to hear what you love, but the really cool thing about this app is that, number one, you can join us in the chat room right from the app. So if you have a question, you can just come on over into the chat room from the phone and it will not shut down, which is so amazing because website pages when you're on your phone shut down and not here. And when you actually come to somebody's page, you can just scroll through. It's a little hard to see here with the lighting, but you can just scroll through and you can play that show right there on your phone. And with this contest we've got going on is huge. We have, I think we've awarded 15 prizes so far. We still have more than 50 prizes to be won. So how friggin' amazing is that, right? So we love to deliver amazing content. We love to show up where it's convenient for you to listen and watch. And we love to show you the amazing hosts and all their creations. And so that's why we do what we do. We have put together an amazing package of where and how our hosts and their amazing content can show up. And we deliver that so that you can be actually inspired, right? It's the Inspired Choices Network. So you can be inspired and contributed to. All the content is free. The app is free. Amazing, right? There will never be a cost for the app or for the content that you're going to be listening to. We bring this to you because these are conscious people that are bringing the world to your table. These people, these creators are amazing. And our whole model here at the Inspired Choices Network is bringing conscious voices to the world. That's what we do. And we would love to share that with you. So come on in. We just got somebody jumped into the chat room who says, I'm listening in the car. Woohoo! How does it get any better than that? I love that. And I believe there's someone else out there that might be listening, or she might be listening in the replay. I know she was going to, I believe, a sleep clinic today, and she said she absolutely wanted to hear the show. So she said, I want to hear what this is all about. So Let's get into this show. I am a strategic business coach. I'm a holographist coach. I do a lot of different things, but the one thing that I will always continue to do is have the tough conversations. And that's what tonight is all about. Because you know what? These are some of the things that we don't talk about. So tonight we're talking about, do you ever feel like a fraud? Hands up. Come on. Who has never felt like a fraud? I would believe that probably 90 to 95% of people would honestly admit, at least to themselves, that they have had that experience. And today, she says, someone says in the chat room, I would believe that some of us, most of us would admit to having had that experience at sometime in our life and struggling with that. And you know what? And at the same time, even being aware of it and saying, no, 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 I don't want to look at that. That's too much to look at. Sue, I know who Sue is in the chat room now. It's been a long time since I've been here. I'm so happy to have you, Sue. Thank you all for joining me. You guys can't know what amazing feeling it is to have people support you and listen to you, especially these hosts. So if you're listening to a host, send them a quick email, send them a message. It makes all the difference in the world for us. And it's kind of the juice that keeps us moving. So I'm really grateful for everybody to be here. Okay, so feeling like a fraud is not something we talk about in life, and certainly not in business. Can you imagine actually admitting this emotion? How often have you felt like a fraud in what you were doing and tried to ignore it, all the while being somewhat consumed by it? Let's crack open this topic and really change that tune. You know, feeling like a fraud is certainly something that I have experienced. And, you know, I continue to look at it. And what I really would love to say to each and every one of you that's listening, you know what, if you don't have some of these doubtful experiences, in my interesting point of view, I don't think you're actually being honest with yourself. I don't think you're actually being vulnerable with yourself. And while you don't need to bring it out on the airwaves like I do, it's certainly a contribution if you would look at it for yourself, because it's in those moments of vulnerability that you can dive in deep and really start to change what it is that you desire. You know, there's a lot of people out there that talk about different things in the world that really ring with me. And one of those is Abraham Hicks. And that's Esther Hicks, who actually channels this body of beings called Abraham. And what Abraham says is that contrast is actually a gift. That contrast is there for us to really reach higher. And so when you're having a negative emotion, right, at this exact same moment, the very same second, you are simultaneously having the desired result that you would like to have, like to experience. So when contrast comes up, I really invite you in to look at, what is the gift in this contrast? I don't want this. What is it that I do desire? And you don't need to know it, but even asking the universe to show me what it is, will start to change a lot for you. And I think that's a really big thing when we're talking about fraud. Now, before we go any further, what I want to do is I want to talk about the original definition of the word fraud. And I have not read this yet, so I'm reading it with you all. Fraud is a noun. It's criminal deception. This was in the mid 14th century. And it's deception, fraud, a cheat, deceit, a cheater, a deceiver. Wow. The meaning is a fraudulent production, something intended to deceive. Oh, I really like that. A fraudulent product, something intended to deceive, imposter, deceiver, pretender, humbug. Wow, that's really interesting. Deception, practice for the sake of what is deemed a good purpose. Person who talks poisely but is not pious at heart. Okay, this is very, very cool. So, the very first thing that starts to pop for me is I think of a lot of the religious evangelists that have long since been shown that they were a fraud. And, they were putting out that they were very pious, that they were very humbled, that they were absolutely motivated by um, the desire to bring forth um, healing and love and God's word to the people, right? And what they ended up doing, many of them, and they've been found fraudulent, truthfully fraudulent, is that they were stealing from people, that they were, siphoning money from the coffers, and pardon me, they were taking money from individuals and not actually investing in the people, right? That they were, like some of them were acting like they were of the God's word and the Bible, and talking about having one wife, and ended up having lots and lots of affairs. So there's a lot of that, I'm sure, that you can relate to, seeing that in your life, and understanding that. And we think of that on those big broad scales when we think of fraud, but yet so many of us experience the feeling of being a fraud, right? So I have a question. Are you saying that feeling like a fraud is the same as lack of confidence or doubting my abilities? Um, yes, and feeling like a fraud. So let me talk about a personal experience that I had. When I first started in my own business, and I started to coach people, and I was working with individuals and talking to them about what was happening in their world, and encouraging them, helping to support and guide them forward. A number of these people were either in relationships or they were in business. And I actually had an encounter with my ex husband, hence why he's an ex. And he actually said to me, how the hell can you be a life coach when your life is so screwed up? Whoa, dude. Now, was I angry? Yeah, was I angry? And I wouldn't have been so angry if I didn't already carry that thought within me. How many people can relate to what I'm saying? Somewhere inside of me, I did doubt myself. So, yes, Sue, we are talking about doubt. Somewhere inside of me, I did doubt myself. And doubting yourself is not a bad thing. Doubt is actually helps you to keep checking in on yourself, and raising the bar in your own life. Fraud is something deeper. Fraud is the fear that someone is going to find out that you're a big fat lie. All right. That is a much deeper, it's nearly there's shame energy around that. And it's something that stops us from continuing. It can actually cripple people pretty intensely when they feel like they are being a fraud. It can move into mass self-sabotage, and it's really, really intense. And it doesn't need to be. But when understand that when you react really intensely, like I did, what it started to show me, not that I admitted it at that moment, because I'm not going to admit that to my ex. Right? Like, no way am I going to admit that to him. But there was a part of me that doubted my capacity as a coach at that time. And it started to put me into a bit of a tailspin. And, when you are in that intensity, it definitely is going to affect your capacities. It's going to have you be in that space of worrying and not really step into the energy and the potency of who you are. It's nearly like it holds you back. And then what, it's a crazy thing, but what ends up happening is there's this self-fulfilling prophecy that nearly gets implanted, and you start to feel like people don't want to work with you, or the coaching clients start to go away. And that was actually something I started to experience. And I really really needed to look at that deeply and look at what the truth was. So, we are up for our first break of the show. And when we get back, we got a lot more to dive into here. And I love the questions. Please keep bringing them forward. And, together we're really going to look at what this thing about fraud really is going on for us and how it is that we can really go beyond that. There's so many lies that we tell ourselves. And that's some of the stuff that I really want to unpack for all of us tonight. So, you're listening to Inspired Choices radio and TV show. And you're on the Inspired Choices Network with myself, Christine McIver. Remember, download the app. You definitely want to have this. You want to enter that contest. Just go to inspiredchoicesnetwork.com/contest and you can get in on that. It doesn't cost you anything. You're going to see these wonderful prizes on that page as well. So tonight we're talking about do you ever feel like a fraud? Stay tuned, my friends. We're going to be right back after this commercial break. See you soon.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices radio show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices radio show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine at inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Hey, my friends, have you downloaded the app yet? I'm so happy to have this app in our world, Inspired Choices Network, on all types of apps. Just go search for it in your local app store. You can get so much from this app. It's so funny. Over the years of all of the things that I have been creating. Oh, we've got a couple more people in the chat room. How awesome is this? After all of the years of all of the things that I've been creating, that old message that sometimes does creep in, that old message of, are you a fraud? Are you being a fraud? Do you really, really know what you're doing? And I'm here to say, my friends, that's probably the biggest bull crap, that you are a fraud. It's so interesting, all of the different times that will come up in our world around being a fraud. And something that came to me while I was getting ready for the show is, at what point are you deemed an expert at anything? At anything. So what I'm just imagining is, let's say you're a gymnast and you're learning to be a gymnast. While you're learning to be a gymnast and you're competing and you're impressing people and you are entertaining people and you're maybe winning awards, at what point do you switch over from being just somebody who's trying something out to being an expert? Have you ever thought about that? Do you have to be in the Olympics to be an expert? Now let's look at your profession, whatever profession that you've chosen to be in. At what point does that needle actually move to deem you a professional? At what point? I really want to come back to this original definition of a fraud. A fraudulent production, something intended to deceive. Are you someone that is intending to deceive someone else? When I first started out as a coach, right, I was learning to be a coach. I'd had many years in business, but not teaching people how to be in business. So I was just learning. Now, a lot of people came to me for relationships, and I had been in relationships for years. In fact, I got divorced twice at this point. I was divorced for the second time when I started coaching. And a number of people would actually say, "You haven't been successful in relationships. How could you possibly coach other people in relationships?" Listen up, my friends. I know relationships. I know the deep, deep pain of relationships. I know the deep fraudulent behavior of other people. I've been with people who are unkind and abusive. I've been with people who've tried to deceive. I've seen what this goes on in other people's relationships as well. And I have coached so many men in relationships that would say to me, I just love these guys, different people, guys, they don't know me, and they would say, "Christine," they would tell me something that they were going to do, and I'd be like, "No, no, 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 don't do that, don't do that, don't do that." And then be like, "Why?" "Because if you do that, she's going to do this, and then she's going to do this, and she's going to do this." And trust me, I know, because I did it. And they would say, "Oh my gosh, Christine, I love that you're my coach, but holy crap, I'm glad I was in a relationship with you." And they do mean that in the past text. But it's true. What makes me someone who can really speak to other people in relationships is that I'm willing to look at my crap. I'm willing to look at what I have been and done in relationships. And I've been on a mission to grow in that area and to constantly be diving into self development in that area. That's not something that's going to stop. And, that was another thing that popped into my mind is like, if someone is being fraudulent, if you have someone, a professional that you're following, or you're a professional, if you're someone that says, "Okay, I know everything I need to know, I'm good to go," and you just keep on, working with people, but you miss continuing to develop in your own self and your own world, you could start to border on fraudulent. Right? You could start to border on being someone who is not actually being honest with another person. In my personal point of view, in order for us to support other people in whatever we're doing, I think it demands us to take responsibility to continually hone our craft. And if that's something that you're doing, there may be an area within you that thinks, "Oh, like I'm never going to be as good as, or I'm never going to be good enough." Bullshit. Bullshit. Wherever you are, if you have a desire to contribute in your profession from wherever you are, whatever profession you're doing, and you continually seek to enhance, to grow, you are the type of person that we, the conscious people in the world, are seeking, because you're willing to say, "You know what? I can do better. I can continue to grow." There is a huge piece of integrity with someone in their profession that desires to continue to grow. That is not being fraudulent. You deeply desire to not deceive. And it's a real kind of like, it's a bit of a twist, because somewhere maybe in your mind, you have actually got this idea that you're being fraudulent, which is propelling you to grow and to seek more and to seek more and to keep showing up as a professional. So, in a really weird, wacky way, that is actually contributing to you continually seeking to grow and continually seeking to be the better you that you desire to be in the world. My friends, this is very, very important for you to understand is, if you are here listening to this show, first of all, I would definitely say that you are more than likely someone who has had these doubts, and yet you desire to continue to grow, and you do by your choices. Look at your choices. All right. If there are areas in your life that are not working for you, if there are areas in your business that are not working for you, if there are areas in your relationships that are not working for you, be willing to put your hand up and ask for support. This, my friends, this doesn't, because you have an area in your life that is not going great, doesn't mean you don't simultaneously have amazing knowledge and contributions to bring to the world. Don't let that lie hook you. Don't let it hook you. All right. You have things, I see people, everyone on a path, and we're just at different spaces on the path together. Right. So, where you might be someone that has some knowledge about social media, let's say, someone else may be desiring to learn it. It doesn't mean that you're better than them. It means that you have honed your craft more and that they are looking for someone like you. If you have, I've said this so many times, if you have something on your heart that you desire to bring to the world, a song, a book, a show, whatever it is, a service, a product, if you have something on your heart, there's someone out there looking for it. All right. There's someone out there looking for it. Okay. Well, we have something in the chat room I want to refer to. So Sue is saying, here is another take of feeling like a fraud. I realized in claiming that I am now fully retired, I no longer needed to pretend that I was doing something meaningful. I am much happier, loving doing things around my home that I had been putting off, telling myself and others that I had to earn a living. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And when I was feeling like a fraud, I was not intending to deceive, just feeling that I did not have enough experience. That is a great differentiation. You're not a fraud, even though you're saying, hey, I can teach about A, B, and C, but still desiring to increase your experience. And isn't it interesting, the moment that this listener decided that, you know what, I'm going to retire, that means I don't have to do this anymore, or I don't have to, there's like nearly like a proving energy there, then those feelings started to go away. So I wonder if you weren't trying to prove that you were enough to other people, but allowing yourself to step into your brilliance, step into contributing to the world, to the people around you. If you were willing to say, these are the gifts that I have today, and you're willing to share them with the world without that fraudulent energy with you, I wonder what that would actually create for you. You know, my friends, you don't get better at something if you don't keep trying. And you certainly don't become an expert in your field if you aren't willing to lean in and continue to grow. Before tonight's show, I did a little Facebook Live and I was being jokey. And if you're watching the TV episode, I'm playing with a weight. You know, sometimes things get heavy and we got to keep working those muscles and keep working those muscles. And why do we need to work those muscles? So that we get stronger. We get stronger and we get more self-awareness about who we are. Lots of people want to say that they're an expert. And when they are very boastful about being an expert, as I said earlier, they start to pull back on continuing their self-development. And then there's like the nearly more on the opposite end where they're saying, I'm not good enough yet. I can't bring it to the table yet. I'm not good enough yet. I can't bring it to the table yet. But my friends, what I have learned over many years of coaching people and many years of doing my own work, being in my own business, being a host here on the network and being in my own business is until you step up and you start to actually practice, which I'm not a fan of the word practice, but until you start to actually engage with and bring your abilities to the world, you are never going to be ready to receive even the ability to call yourself an expert. You know, there's so many things. We are going to go to break soon, but the one thing that I want to tell you is I can remember when I first started coaching and I was so worried. And I was actually talking to a colleague a little bit about this today. And I was so incredibly worried about what to say. I would like, oh my gosh, okay, what am I going to tell them? What am I going to say? What brilliance am I going to bring to the table? And that was a very big aspect of not trusting myself and not allowing what I have learned to come forth, to come through me. And when I started my own business and I started coaching, I wasn't, I hadn't been learning and I wasn't tapped into receiving my awareness. That was not something that I was consciously doing or had been consciously educating myself around. And so I was in that big place of doubt and I was always trying to make sure I was ready. I was ready. I was ready. Well, here's something that I want you to know. And this is a very cool thing, is that if someone is coming to you, you are ready for what they require. Let me say that again. If someone is coming to you, if they're saying yes to working with you or working or being with you or listening to you, all right, they are ready for what you have to bring. They're ready. And so in that aspect, you are not a fraud. For them, you are the message that they seek. You are the message that they seek. You do not become a fraud when you have a desire to contribute to the world and hold yourself accountable to continue to grow. I really want you to get that, my friends. That doesn't make you a fraud. That makes you a seeker and someone who's willing to continually hold themselves accountable to becoming even better than they were yesterday. Everyone has self-doubt. Someone that believes they're a fraud, though, can sometimes go into hiding and pull themselves away from the world. And what I'd love to do is invite you to come out. I'd love to invite you to connect with me. Let's talk about this. Let's change this in your world. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what age you are. If you have this feeling of fraud, it was 100% holding you back from creating greater, receiving more in your life. And that is so, so changeable. So my friends, we are up for our second break of this show. You are listening to Inspired Choices with your host, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Network. Make sure you get that app, get it downloaded. Talk to you soon, my friends.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices Radio Show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you ready to have pleasure with your business? Yes, I said pleasure with your business. The Pleasure of Business a la carte will surprise you with topics like meet yourself in the boardroom, money, services, and you. Expand your visibility. The pleasure of communication. The pleasure of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Christine McIver has so much pleasure with business and loves teaching all things business. Beginning a new business? Desiring to expand a current business? Or looking to resurrect a business that has been dormant? This program will get you fired up and bring more pleasure than you have ever imagined. Exhausted with your excuses for not creating a phenomenal business? Join now for all the pleasure with business. Pleasure of Business a la carte gives you total choice for what you desire and what your business requires. That's 24 weeks of different topics to choose from with weekly calls, audio and video recordings, and PDFs. This class will have you dive right in and use tools to create the business that has been speaking to you. Go to inspiredchoices.ca for full details or join the Facebook page Pleasure au Business a la carte. Now is the time for you and your business.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here, my friends. I'm really, really happy to see all of you in the chat room and all of you listening and messaging me. It's amazing to have so many of you here and to actually know that this is a topic that resonates for so many of us. And you know what? And just look around and know that you're not alone if you're feeling this, even feeling this a little bit. I can remember as a young mother, I was so confident. You know, I was an aunt when I was 8 years old, and I was surrounded by babies growing up my whole life. And I can remember, this is a funny story. When I had my son, I was so confident with him right out of the gate. You know, I was like, I know how to be a mom. I know how to do what needs to be done. I know how to, listen to them, and understood the different cries and how to change them and bathe them and all of these things. And then along came about 4 weeks later, my brother was getting married, and I was in the wedding that day. And on the way to the wedding, I needed to cut his fingernails. His fingernails got very, very long. And I didn't know that I was supposed to bite them off. So I used nail clippers. And yeah, I'm sure it's happened to many of you as well. I cut the top of his fingernail and the skin came off, and he was sleeping. I'm such a terrible mother. I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm still sorry for this. But I cut the top of the finger off, the skin off just a little bit. And he wailed with such a sound that would just it just crushed me. And for so long, I thought, I'm a terrible mother. I'm a terrible mother. I can't be a good mother. I'm a terrible mother. What kind of mother would do such a thing, right? And that fraud energy started to come in, which was I didn't even want to tell people that I did that because I thought it was so, it was so, so awful. For me, it was awful to imagine that I could do that, and thought, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Isn't that interesting, my friends? Just as an example, is I had all these years of experience being someone who was around babies and caring for babies. And I mean, by the time he came along, I had been caring for babies for more than 15 years. I had ample experience at taking care of babies. And in that one moment, my self-doubt throughout 15 years of experience, because of one incident, I decided that I was not good enough. And the one question somebody had said in the chat room here was, when I was feeling like a fraud, I wasn't intending to deceive, just feeling that I did not have enough experience. And my question is, who decides when you have had enough experience? And how many of us have one experience, and it doesn't matter whether we have a week, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, whether we've had 100 clients or we've gone to university and we have a BA, how many of us take one situation and we throw out all of this knowledge and all of this experience because we have an emotional response, or someone that we're with has an emotional response that triggers some area in our life that requires some attention. Please know this, when that energy of fraud comes up, right? Remember, I was talking about contrast earlier. When that energy of fraud comes up, be willing to look at, okay, what's happening here? I'm feeling like a fraud. What do I desire? I'm just going to make this up. I feel like a fraud. I desire to be an expert. Okay, so there's something in that space in between. And that this is where you want to start asking more questions and start looking at like ask yourself, when did I first have that experience of feeling like I am a fraud? When did I first start to hear about being a fraud? Is there anybody in my life, in my past, in my family, friends, relationships, where they felt like a fraud and I started to identify with this? What is your expectation of yourself as well? What is your expectation that if you're not actually hitting that mark, you are going to automatic conclusion that maybe you're being a fraud? Or this one, well, you know what? Everybody else, and this is being talked about in the chat room too, about competition, right? Comparing yourself, the comparison game is a trap right into feeling like a fraud too. It's so true, Jen. It's like when you're looking at other people out there and they're succeeding in the arena that you are in, or even if they're not, but they've got a successful life, whatever that looks like, whatever you've decided success looks like, or the way that they present it looks like they're in a successful life, which I'm telling you, every single person in the world has challenges. Don't buy that bullshit that what you see on social media is the totality of their life. They can be having great times for sure, but everyone is here to grow. All right. So everyone has had challenges. But when you are looking at what their life is and you don't have it, do you actually make that just come in and hit you in your chest, hit you in your gut, and take you down so intently? And I am telling you, I have spoken to senior citizens. I've spoken to senior citizens who, have looked at their lives and they're still comparing themselves to their older sibling, or they're comparing themselves to other people that they grew up with, or people in their expert fields, and they still are feeling like they have not been successful. My friends, let's start looking at that word success and let's start really evaluating what a successful life would look like for us. What is it that you desire more than anything else in your life? Now, if tomorrow was your last day on earth, what would you do right now? That's a real big wake up call, right? That's a huge wake up call. If you knew that in 6 months, for sure, you were going to leave this body, where would you be putting your energy? And if you didn't know that you were going to die, if you didn't know that your life was going to come to an end in this embodiment, what is it that you really desire that brings you joy? Oh my God, I'm going to say this on the radio. Sorry, this just dropped in. Oh my God. Okay, so one of my desires is to sing. It was actually the very first thing that I wanted to do as a young girl is I wanted to be a country singer. And I don't need to hear anybody's blah, blah, blah about country music. I was raised on country music. I love country music. But, over the years I used to smoke many, many years ago, and it certainly changed my voice. I used to be a soprano singer in the choir in church, and I love to sing, and I grew up singing and be beside my mom singing. And I had a brother-in-law that played the guitar, and on Saturday nights, we used to sit around my kitchen table and we would sing. And I'm not singing now, Jen, don't be silly. But we would sing, and it's a desire that I have, and it's something that makes me happy when I sing. And it's time for some singing lessons. So that's something that I'm looking at, and it's actually been coming up over the last couple of months more and more. Is, you know what? If that's something that's going to bring happiness and joy to me, that's something that I should be reaching for. And so I'm saying this publicly so you can all hold me accountable. It's not happening tomorrow, but it is definitely something that's getting closer and closer in my world to do that. And, if I'm not a perfect singer, does that make me a fraud at singing? if I'm not perfect at, I can tell you this right now, okay? And you guys have heard this story before. I have been doing radio and now radio and TV simultaneously. I have been in this business since 2011. I started in the spring of 2011. And so I've been at this now for 10 years. Whoop, whoop, 10 years, right? And I can tell you that when I got on the air the very first time, I definitely was not an expert. I definitely felt that energy of like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And it actually freaked me out when I went on the radio the first time. In the first 15 minutes, I was basically crying. You know, who cries during their show? Well, I do sometimes. But for the first full 15 minutes, now, if I allowed those moments in that first show to stop me, I wouldn't be here today. Inspired Choices Network would not be here today. The hosts that are on the network, the hosts that have been on the network, the over 6,200 shows that have been recorded over the years would not be here if I'd allowed that moment to stop me. If I allowed that negative voice of "you're a fraud, get the hell off the air," like, oh, it was so loud. If I'd had allowed that to drive my next choice, I would have robbed myself of a greater experience. Now, I'm not saying that everything you choose is always going to blossom into something that you can create a direct line to. But I do know that every single solitary choice you make contributes to you. It contributes in more ways than you will ever know. And my friends, you're not a fraud if you keep choosing to show up and keep choosing to be the best absolute version of who you are. Yes, and Jen says, not to mention how many people each host touches and inspires would be robbed as well. It's so true. It's so true. And I'm grateful and overwhelmed by that. I actually start to get choked up by that, because to imagine that me choosing to lean in more to being more of me has rippled out so wide and so far. It's something that takes me. It really takes me, because, you know, there's still doubt in my world, and doubt never leaves your world, but you can face it more and more as you continue to be willing to look at it. So we are up to our third break of the show. Stick around, my friends. We've still got more to unpack with that feeling of being a fraud. I want to talk about fraud, and I want to talk about business. So stay tuned. You are listening to Inspired Choices with your host, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices in our lives based on our past experiences or what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join Inspired Choices Radio Show with holographist coach Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know but may not choose that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back and brings all her expertise during each and every show. Are you ready to create the life and the living you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with holographist coach Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Wow, this has been a fast show, hasn't it, my friends? It always seems so fast when we dive into it. And I absolutely love doing these shows. And as my friend and one of the team members here, Jen Wood, she says it every week. I love Wednesdays. I love doing my show. You know, I can tell you that even in the loving to do my shows and having done my shows for 10 years, I still have the energy of doubt that comes in when I'm going to start to do a show. And I think that there's a valuable piece in there. And what that shows me time and time again is that I'm willing to continue to grow. I don't want to get complacent. I don't want to be someone that is just pushing. I want to really lean into this for myself, and I want to lean into being the best version of who I truly am. And so, you know, if you're having that come up for yourself, please know that that's not necessarily telling you that you're not good. It might actually be challenging you to continue to grow. And I want to talk about being a fraud and being a fraud in business. You know, so many of us, we actually use the marker of money as whether we are being a good at what we're doing or we're being a fraud. You know, if you do your craft and it doesn't result in A, B, or C, or what other people or society says it's supposed to result in, you can often go into, I've seen many people do this, go into believing that they are a fraud. And I'm going to call bullshit on that. I am 100% going to call bullshit on that. I'm looking for something. Here's my bullshit button.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
Yes, we're playing with props tonight, my friends. If you're watching the TV episode, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit that you are not actually being an amazing contribution to the world, and that there is something wrong with you. You know, when we are looking at being in business, we have to start somewhere. And as we start and we continue to grow ourselves and be willing, are you willing to grow yourself? Are you willing to look at what's going on in your world? If you are, your business will begin to blossom. Let's take the word success out and let's look at being willing to blossom. Are you willing to be the blossom in your own world? Are you willing to really look at what is available to you when you continue to challenge yourself to grow? This world can send you down a rabbit hole of beating yourself up and doubting the hell out of yourself. Absolutely. But I'm here to tell you, my friends, you are much more amazing than you're allowing yourself to see. And I've been there. I know that. If you go over to my website, inspiredchoices.ca, you'll see a product there. It was a 3-call telecall called Bust the Doubt Out. I can't remember the exact words, but Bust Doubt Out. And it was all about doubt and what it does to us and how it can really impact us and how there's so much of it is a real lie. You can go over and grab that. Those shows were fantastic. I love them so much. I mean, those classes were fantastic. And I listened to those again and again because I received so much download during doing those classes. I want you to know that if you're here listening, you're not a fraud. And maybe what you need is some support. I have some fabulous packages to work with people on an individual basis or to work with people in their business. And I would love to connect with you. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to support you because here's what I do. I work with the individual and then I support them in their business. There's a big difference. I'm not just looking at your business. I'm supporting you as well. I'm a strategic business coach and I work with and for you. I'm not preaching at you. My friends, join us next week. I'm going to be talking about so you want to start a business. It doesn't matter whether you already have a business or not. We're going to be talking about starting, a lot of things about starting and what to look for. And even if you've been in business for 10 years, there's going to be a number of things that you may not have in your business. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Remember, download that damn app. And remember, you can always make.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Radio Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, be willing to choose what you really desire. This is your life, making the choices that bring you all that you desire.